Julie here from Copy What I Use for Revision, and a few people this week have been asking me for tips on how to cope with anxiety or stress around revision. So I thought I'd pop a quick video on today detailing what I feel are 10 of the top tips that I can offer for child anxiety around revision and to reduce exam stress. Okay, so the first one that I recommend is distraction. And in fact, I had an example of this yesterday with my youngest daughter. She's studying for AS levels and she was getting really stressed, and she said on an anxiety level 0 to 10, she was actually at a 9. She was nearly breaking down. She didn't feel like revising. So what I did is what I always do in these situations. I just got her off in the car and we took a trip to the coast. Now I'm very lucky. I live about a quarter of an hour away from a lovely coastline. And anyway, we parked by the coastline and we got the book out, and I said, look, let's do it just chunk by chunk together, relaxing with the sound of the sea in the background. And indeed, it made a tremendous difference, and we learned quite a lot yesterday. And that was just by literally removing her from the situation where she was stressed and anxious and taking her to a different place where she associates with calm. And you'd be surprised how much revision we got done just in an hour or so of sitting by the coast, whereas had she stayed home, she wouldn't have done any revision at all. So the first one I say is just to have distraction and take them somewhere. Now it doesn't have to be to the coast, it could be anywhere. It could be for a coffee, it could be for a nice walk if your child likes walking, but just get them away from the environment where they're feeling stressed. Tip number 2 is to create quizzes. There are very good quizzes on free apps out there. Two free apps that are really good are Quizlet and Kahoot. Now with Kahoot in particular, you can actually create quizzes either for a group of people or for individuals. So if you want to, you could make it like a family affair and have a bit of a laugh then and form yourself into groups. But they're both free apps. And another top tip I picked up was to actually print the questions off, cut them up into individual questions and pop them in a plastic wallet, and again take them out somewhere with you and then test your child. Just take them out at random, the questions, and then just test them, and you'd be surprised how much you can actually learn just by doing that and just making it more fun. So again, they're free apps and they're called Quizlet and Kahoot. Number 3 is to create a sensory box. Now I first learnt about this as a way of coping with anxiety when my oldest daughter had very severe OCD. Her doctor at that time recommended making a sensory box. Now for those of you who haven't actually seen my video yet on making a sensory box, I'll pop a link at the bottom of the video to actually show you that I actually demonstrate how to make one. I mean, basically, I've used a box that I bought off Amazon solely because I made quite a few for people for Christmas, because I thought they made nice Christmas gifts. But you can basically use any box, be it a new one or a used box. The idea is just to put some nice things associated to the 5 senses into the box, because apparently anything associated with the senses helps to reduce anxiety. So example of a few things that I put in there was a seashell. You could think you could hear the sound of the sea if you believe in that, or secondly it's just even the feel of it, just to make them think of a relaxed area, which they tend to like the beach. A coffee bean, because my oldest daughter loves a coffee, so I've put, you can even get coffee bean chocolates, believe it or not, so you've got the smell and the taste there. Bar of chocolate, or a packet of sweets, because we all like something a little bit sweet if we're stressed out. Something to listen to. I used to put a list of their favourite tunes, so they could listen to, like in my oldest daughter, I mean, she's a Beyonce fan, so I would put a playlist of Beyonce and we'd put some Beyonce on. Anything that you can think of related to the senses that your child is going to relate to. Obviously, I don't know what your child would like in particular, but they're just a few of the examples that I used. Number 4 is what I've suddenly introduced this year actually, and that is I've always helped children with revision, hence why I've got this channel, How to Help Parents with Revision Tricks. But I have actually introduced a certain night for each of my children. My eldest one I do a Monday night, and then the younger one I do on a Wednesday night, and that is their evening where we pop off to a coffee shop. We take some difficult, I usually take the tricky revision because generally they get on with the other revision themselves, and we sit in a coffee shop over a coffee. We normally pick a nice window seat where we can see outside as well, and again you'd be surprised how much revision you can get done. And why I've actually introduced a night is, again, my youngest one in particular has always suffered with revision around, anxiety around revision. And so she was getting a bit stressed because she just started at AS level. So I decided to do a designated night because she's got the Monday and Tuesday then to have it firmly in her mind what she's struggling with, so she's got it ready to speak to me about on Wednesday. Obviously I help her other nights as well, but that's a night when she can actually bring out the tricky stuff and we tackle that together. Okay, so that's having a regular revision night. Number 5, and this is a biggie when it comes to reducing teenage anxiety, is to create rewards. Now, it doesn't have to be anything big. Again, this is a tip I picked up from my child with OCD because it did work very, very well in helping her to combat some difficult issues that she had. But you can introduce this with revision as well. Let me just have a look on my list because I don't want to miss anything that might be important. Some examples would be a trip to the cinema. Again, a coffee, but introduce a cake as a reward if you normally go for a coffee anyway. So, well, do you know what? If you do this, that, or next thing, I'll give you a cake. A ride in the car. Now, what I tend to do as an extra treat, because mine go regularly in the car if they're stressed out, they love going off in the dark, in the nights off somewhere. So I say, well, I tell you what then, if they're particularly anxious, I say we'll go for a ride in the evening and that calms them down no end. A nice meal. Or, believe it or not, a Ben and Jerry's, can't get my words out, Ben and Jerry's ice cream, that works really well. Obviously, there are other brands of ice cream available, but my two tend to prefer Ben and Jerry's. Right, anxiety tip number 6 is music or singing. Now, again, my eldest, well, and my youngest for that matter, they love singing, and the more stressed they get, the louder you hear them sing. In fact, I think I know every Beyonce lyric now because whether we're in the car, whether we're at home, there's just Beyonce singing, or sometimes both. I've got Beyonce blasting in the background and them singing to Beyonce. Again, it's a case of you'll know what genre of music your children like, but put a bit of music on, that instantly calms them, or try and get them to sing because singing is proven to help you lift up your mood levels when you're feeling stressed or anxious. Okay, number 7, this is one that I actually came up with this morning actually. A short while ago, for my Mother's Day, I made my mother a little jar and I put all coloured little pieces of paper in, and with hers I put on the jokes or thoughts for the day, just so she would take one out every day and have a little bit of a chuckle to herself as she read through them. And I thought today, what I'm going to introduce this year is I'm going to actually put the questions, maybe I'll print them off Quizlet or the Kahoot app that I mentioned earlier, but I'm going to put them on different coloured pieces of paper and I'm going to fold them up and put them into a nice jar, and every morning I'm going to get each of them, they'll have their own jar, to take out a different colour with a different question, because even if they don't know the answer to the questions, that will be a really fun and relaxed way of learning extra information. So I'm going to introduce a jar, put all the questions on different colour paper, and I'm just going to mix and match them into the jar and get them to take one out today, and we're going to see how that goes. Number 8, this was one that again a counsellor recommended to us. She recommended for my daughter with OCD to actually keep a journal, not to write in, because if your children are anything like mine, trying to get them to write a journal, well, it's a no-go. So what she said to do was just to write down 3 positive things that had happened every day. Now, my daughter, when she was really ill, the first thing she said was, oh, nothing positive's happened today. Now, if they can't think of anything, if they've had a really stressful, horrible day, just try and get them to put something down there, because apparently you can even trick your mind into thinking you've had positive things happen. So, for example, what she said to us was, if the sun shone, just put the sun shone on there. If you listen to Beyonce, I'm just saying Beyonce because that's what mine love, I listen to Beyonce. Or the dog made me happy. Whatever it is, you need to get them to put 3 things that have made them happy every day. And that is known, if you do it for a consistent amount of time, it's known to help them lift their mood swings, because it actually tricks the brain into thinking they're happy even if they haven't had a happy day. Number 9, again, this is a regular one I've done with our two, because quite often, particularly my daughter with OCD, she's actually dreaded going to school some days because that's where her biggest issues have been. And my other daughter gets really stressed and worried about workload. She gets stressed with revision and exams. So for both of them, what I find that works well in the morning It acts as a sort of distraction and also appealing to the senses, I suppose. I actually get them a coffee from a drive-through on the way to school, and just having that coffee or a hot chocolate or whatever their preference is can actually then help to calm them. I've actually brought them down from a stress level of about 10 to about 2 by the time they got to school, because between the distraction of the drink and the ride to school, then that's worked wonders in reducing their anxiety as well. And finally, number 10, this is quite an important one really. It might seem obvious, but it is important, is not to focus on the anxiety. Now, I've been guilty of this in the past. You tend to think, oh, let's talk about it. How can we deal with this? The best thing to do is not make a big issue, but to just find positives to talk about instead. Just saying, well, look, you've had a tricky day today, it's gone well, but don't worry, because once you learn that, you'll feel a lot better. Just positive on the outcome and a solution and when it's going to get better, because it's a true saying, the problem and the anxiety is always going to be there around the problem, but your job as a parent is to try and get them to focus on the outcome, the positive outcome, to help them feel less anxious about the situation. Okay, so that's my top 10 tips for anxiety, tackling anxiety and stress around revision. As I've said in other videos, there are some fabulous products that I have actually used which help with revision anxiety as well, because they actually show alternative ways of revising that make it seem as though you've got your exam revision notes actually going into the exam with you. Because what they teach you to do is to use images, store images as stories in your mind. So if you sort of have a mental block in your exam, which my younger daughter in particular was prone to do, then it's so much easier to remember a story and images and go through a sequence that way to remember the fact that you want, rather than just have all these facts stored there and you've just got to extract the right one. But again, you can find out more about that in depth, because I've actually written a review about these two products, and I'll actually put a link to the reviews I've written, and I'll put a link as well to the video I've made as well on one of the products. Okay, so that's it today for today's tips, because as I've had so many people asking me whether I can share tips on the anxiety side of revision as well, that I thought I would pop a quick video on you today. So I hope those 10 tips have helped. Again, please pop a like or pop a comment if it has proved useful, because it does help me to know that I am sharing information that's useful to you. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any future videos that I publish, just remember to subscribe so that you actually then, and pop on the bell so you'll get a notification when I pop my next video on. Okay, so that's it today from me. Have a great day. Speak to you again soon. Bye for now.